Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare
Sankirtan ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you everyone for joining this Friday satsang. Today we have a good opportunity to hear Kirtan from Rajesh Govind Prabhu and family. Hare Krishna everyone.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Please go ahead, Mataji.
Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Te Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschatya Deshotarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauravakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare
Hare
Sankirtan ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Wonderful Kirtan ki jai.
Jai.
Nice to see the whole family, especially that little devotee there playing Mridangam. He's showing some samples there. Wonderful. Thank you very much. So, Ajit Krishna Prabhu will be joining now. So until he joins, can we just do a quick Narasimha prayer? Please, can we do Narasimha prayer quickly? Can you hear me? Ajit Krishna Prabhu will be joining soon. So can we do Narasimha prayer until then?
Oh, we're gonna do Narsingha prayer?
Yes, today is Ekadashi. Let's do that. He'll be joining soon.
Namaste Narasingaya.
Namaste Narasingaya. Jai.
Jai Go Prabhupada Hari Hari Bol.
Hari
Hari Hari Bol.
Whole family ki jai. Wonderful Kirtan again. Thank you very much. Ajit Krishna Prabhu is here. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam All Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
No problem, guys. Prabhupada, Jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, David's pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, no problem, guys. Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj
Hare
ki
Krishna, Prabhu, no problem. Praise Prabhupada.
Your glories.
So, of course, once again, it was so nice to hear the Kirtan. Very, very wonderful, very ecstatic Kirtan. So, thank you, Mataji, Prabhuji, and the kids for wonderful Kirtan. And of course, it's been a while since we've had some of the devotees join, like Vatsala Mataji. So nice to see you too, Mataji.
Sorry, Prabhu, I couldn't join. So many things.
No, not a problem at all. Hope you've been well and doing well. So, all right. Maybe we just start then, as usual, with a little bit of recap from the last time and then move forward.
Sure, Prabhu. I mean, actually, last week we did the recap.
Okay.
So, but still we can, I mean, quickly glance through the third chapter and then we can go to the fourth chapter. Just a glimpse of the third chapter.
Sure.
Anybody wants to volunteer? Ramshyam Prabhu, Kirtida, Karma Yoga.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. So, overall in the third chapter, as last time we also recap, so we went through the that is the Karma Yoga. So went through the more and more on the last, which covers the knowledge, and so overall it covers through the mind, intelligence, and everything, because of the lust only, and that because of that it binds to the material world, and we keep repeating in this material world. So that was the main focus on that at the last portion. And before that we studied about that, the karma, about the karma, what kind of karma, sakam karma and niskam karma, and those all things. And since the last which dominates on that the mind and intelligence. So Krishna now going forward in this fourth chapter, that is the transcendental knowledge. So going to give the knowledge about the supreme. So that is the transcendental knowledge. So that which will divide the karma, which is the material, which is binding us in the material pool. So that we will cover in the details. So you will be, highlighting starting from the fourth chapter, so everything. So in that, going forward, we'll have that. So that is what so far I understood, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna in summary. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, thank you so much, Prabhu. That is a good preview of what we've done and what we'll be doing in the fourth chapter. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Anybody else?
So Krishna mainly explains, tells the Arjuna that how to do Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means doing all the activities, but surrendering all the works to him with full knowledge, that without desiring for any profit or without claiming any proprietorship. So he's just telling Arjuna, you fight, surrender all your activities. In this case, it is a fight. Surrender your fight unto me. Don't think you are the proprietor of what you're doing now. So that is what the message for us also. And also he explains that how to control, because to to get the best out of our activity, we have to control our senses first. And out of all the senses, lust is primarily which destroys the knowledge. So that is a destroyer. And he also tells where the lust resides. The senses, mind, and intelligence. These are the places where lust resides, and it covers the real knowledge and bewilders one living entity. So therefore, he's saying you have to curb this lust by how? By regulating the senses. Otherwise it will destroy your knowledge and also the path of self-realization. So that is why you have to curb this. And he also says that the senses are superior to dull matter, and mind is higher than the intelligence, and intelligence is higher than the mind, and the soul, which is even higher than the intelligence. So we have to sharpen our intelligence in order to know that we are the servant of Lord, and then we have to deliver all our activities to please the Lord. So basically we have to control our senses by spiritual knowledge of the Supreme. That's all, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. That was, I think, all the main points of chapter 3 kind of very nicely covered there. Anybody else? Okay, then I think we'll move forward with the reading for chapter 4. Then we start the new chapter. So 3 out of 18, 1/6, 16%, 17%. All right. So any kids there today first to start? Otherwise,
We can. No, I don't think any kids are there. But Ramsham Prabhu, your kids are there. Prajesh Govinda Prabhu is not here. Ramsham Prabhu, your kids are there.
Mukunda is in class, Prabhuji.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we can go with Narasimha Prabhu or Tyagu Prabhu.
Okay, Ji.
4th chapter, Prabhu, first verse.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Chapter 4.
Yeah, chapter text 1.
Text 1. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Sri
Bhagavana Vacha
Imam Vivasthavai Yogam.
Imam Vivasvate
Vivasvate
Yogam.
Yogam
Proktavanaham Avyayam.
Proktavanaham
Avyayam
Vivaswan Manave Praha.
Vivasvanave Praha.
Manur Ikva Ve Bravit.
Manu Svakave Bravit.
Translation. The Blessed Lord said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Next one, please.
Can I read the next one?
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
Mother.
Evam parampara praptam.
Evam
Parampara
Parampara
Praptam.
Imam rajarshayo vidu.
Imam Rajarshayo
Vidu.
Sakalena ha mahata.
Sakalena
Mahata.
Yoga nashta parantapa. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Maybe one more verse we can read. Narasimhan Prabhu, you want to read number 3?
Yes, Prabhuji. Sa evayam mayatetya yoga prokta puratana bhakto si me sakha cheti rahasyam hi etadat uttamam. Translation: Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That very science, that very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can I read?
Of course. Read text 1 again, Sudha Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhu. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Ivam vivashrute yogam. Proktavanamah avyayam. Vivaswan manave prava. Nurish ikshvakave bravit. The personality of God and Lord Shri Krishna said, I instructed the immeasurable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, and the father of mankind. And Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Surat Prabhu.
Can I read?
Yes,
of course.
Go ahead.
Evam praptam.
Evam parampara praptam.
Imam Rajarsa yo vidu.
Imam Rajarsa
vidu. Sakaleya mahata. Yoga nashta parantapa. Translation: This supreme sense was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Tarun Krishna.
I will read Prabhuji text number 3.
Yes, Prabhu.
Saevayam mayatedyam.
Saevayam mayatedya.
Yoga prokta puratanaha.
Yoga puratanaha.
Bhakto sime sakha cheti. Rahasyam hiya etad uttamam. And the translation by His Divine Grace Sabha Charna Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else?
The first one, Prabhu.
Hey, Prabhuji, can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Shri Bhagavanu Vacha
Shri
Bhagavanu
Bhagavanu
Imam Vivaspate Yogam
Imam
Imam
Vivaspati
Vivaspati
Yogam
Yogam
Proktavan Aham Avyayam
Proktavan
Aham
Avyayam
avyayam
Vivasvan Manave Praha
Vivasvan
Vivasvan
manave
Praha
praha
Manurikshva Kave Bhavet.
Manurikshvakave Bhavit.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so we'll move ahead then. Okay, start with the invocation prayers and continue from there. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sanivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatrubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So chapter 4, so you're going to start a important new chapter. So Shri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Vivaspate Yogam Proktavanaham Avyayam Vivasman Manave Praha Manurikshvakave Abravit. So Krishna is now giving us instruction on how this knowledge is to be received. So if we recall, when we finished chapter 3, at the end of chapter 3, Krishna basically said, and I'll just read the translation for the last verse of chapter 3, 343. So Krishna says, thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjun, one should steady the mind. By what? By deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. So this whole point about how to control lust, how to control our senses, and how to engage ourselves in activities for the pleasure of Krishna, that constitutes what's called spiritual knowledge or spiritual intelligence. And that topic, transcendental knowledge or spiritual knowledge, that is the focus of chapter 4. So how the flow is taking place now, I mean, as far as the Bhagavad Gita is concerned, as far as the chapters are concerned, the flow is in chapter 3, Krishna says that everybody has to perform activities. If you're alive, you're going to act, you're going to perform activities. Now, when you perform activities, those activities can either bind you to this material world, to the cycle of birth and death, whereby we keep taking repeated birth and death in different species of life, or these activities can liberate us. Liberate us from what? From the cycle of birth and death, basically. So that we don't have to come back into this material world and suffer through janam, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, birth, death, old age, disease. These are the 4 types of miseries. And so Krishna says, if you liberate yourself through your activities, then you won't have to come back into this material world again, and you can go back to the spiritual world. So it's very nice how in chapter 3, Krishna tells us that if we don't control our activities, if we don't engage our activities in the service of the Lord, they will bind us. But if we engage our activities in Krishna's service, then they will liberate us. So nowhere is Krishna proposing that we should stop acting. He is in fact promoting action. He's saying you must act, you must perform your duty. But that is then key, perform your duty. So the art of acting, how to act, that is very important. And our focus, so in chapter 3, in the conclusion of chapter 3, Krishna says our focus should be to act in such a way that we get liberated from the cycle of birth and death. So from that point, here, then Krishna backs a little up, he backs up a little bit to give Arjun an idea for the history of this knowledge. Because you see, the natural question that comes to anybody's mind, a person who's, let's say, reading the Bhagavad Gita and says, okay, now we've come to this point where Krishna is telling Arjun to control his senses, engage and understand that the soul is higher than the intelligence is higher than the mind is higher than the senses, and senses are higher than gross matter. All this hierarchy has been explained. But is this like something new, or is this old knowledge? Where is this coming from? Why should I take this seriously? What is the origin of this knowledge? So these are the kinds of questions that can come into a reader's mind. And these are the kinds of questions that Krishna anticipates and is therefore answering them beforehand in the first verse. And then he also describes in the second verse how this knowledge should be received. And in the third verse, then he tells Arjun why he is giving this knowledge to him, to Arjun. So in text 1, Krishna says, or Krishna gives us some history on when this knowledge was first spoken. So Krishna says, Imam Vivasvate Yoga. He said in the beginning of creation, when this material world was created, all the planets, etc., came into being, or they were created by Brahmaji under the instructions of Krishna, through the knowledge that Brahmaji received from Krishna. And then when the planetary systems were made, the sun planet is the chief planet. In the universe, the sun planet is the chief planet. Why? Because the sun planet is invested with the power, with the potency to maintain all of the other planets through the energy that the sun planet supplies. So the sun is the original source of all energy on every planet within the universe. So in other words, the sun is like the battery that you insert in maybe a flashlight or any battery powered piece of equipment. The sun is the battery. The sun is the power source. And so the sun is the power source for this universe. And in fact, you'll read even in science books, in science textbooks in school. In fact, I remember seeing this fact in a 7th grade science textbook for my kids, that they described how the sun is actually the source of all life forms on this planet. And it gave a very systematic description by saying, I'll paraphrase, but essentially what it said is exactly what the Shastra is saying, which is, because of the energy that the sun provides, plants can grow on planet Earth. Because sunlight provides the necessary ingredients for photosynthesis, the light for photosynthesis. And because of the sun, because the heat from the sun, the temperature is regulated within a certain band. It doesn't get too cold, it doesn't get too hot. And then because of the effect of the sun, there is evaporation, there's cloud formation, and there's rain. So if there's rain and there's oxygen and there's the right temperature maintained, and there is light provided for plants, photosynthesis, photo meaning using light to synthesize energy. That's how plants grow. And when plants grow, they form foodstuff for various animals, the herbivorous animals like cows and goats and things like that. And then those animals become food for carnivorous animals like tigers and foxes and so on and so forth. So there's a whole cycle, but it all starts with sunlight. And if the sun were to diminish in its power, or if the distance of the earth were to change in any way, distance of the earth from the sun were to change in any way, the temperature on this planet would fall. So if the earth moved away from sun a little bit, the temperature would fall to a point where life would not be sustained on this planet. So in other words, the long story short, the sun is accepted as the source of all life forms in all books of science. Modern science accepts it. And Krishna is here describing that the sun is the primary planet within this planetary system. The potency, the energy that is derived from the sun sustains all the other planets. So since the sun is the source of, the sun is not only the source of material energy, but Krishna chose the sun as the source of spiritual knowledge as well, for the same reason that the sun is the central planet for this universe. And how did he make the sun the source of spiritual knowledge? For that, let's what Krishna is describing is that each planet has a presiding deity. And so the presiding deity for the sun planet is the sun god, who currently is known as Vivasvan. And so Vivasvan, Krishna gave the science of transcendental knowledge, of spiritual knowledge, to Vivasvan. And then the verse describes Vivasvan Manave Praha, Manurix Vakave Abravit. So from Vivasvan, there's a whole lineage, but he's abbreviated it in saying from Vivasvan it came to Manu, and then from Manu it came to King Ikshvaku. King Ikshvaku was basically the one of the forefathers of Lord Ramachandra. So in other words, this knowledge was initially given by Krishna to Vivasvan, and then through the chain of disciplic succession, it was handed down to other kings who came after Manu. So an important point that is made here is that this knowledge was given to the presiding deity of the sun planet. Presiding deity of the sun planet is also, or is in a very important position, because the sun planet is the source, is the central source of energy for all of the other planets. And so in the second verse, Krishna says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarishyo vidu. Rajarishyo vidu. He's making the point that I gave this knowledge to Vivaswan, and the chain of disciplic succession that came from him were all kings. But they were what kind of kings? Rajarishi. Raj is Raja, Raja, and Rishi meaning devotee. So they were devotee kings, kings who were actually in heart devotees, by conduct devotees. And why was this the case? This is because Krishna said, if the leader of society is a devotee, then obviously all of the residents, all of the citizens, they will become devotees, because the king will rule according to devotional and Vedic and scriptural injunctions. And therefore, because the whole purpose, Krishna says, of human form, of human life, is to live according to the instructions of scriptures. And if we live according to instructions of scriptures, then we'll be able to come out of this entanglement of birth and death. So what was described in chapter 3, like the enemy, lust, here is where lust resides, etc. All this knowledge was given so that we could overcome these enemies of spiritual life and lead a life of spirituality, which doesn't mean that you stop working. No, you work, but you perform your actions with the goal of pleasing Krishna, and thereby go back to Godhead. But this will only happen if the leader of society is a devotee himself. And therefore, Krishna said, okay, Vivaswan, you are the chief deity of this entire universe. I'll give you this knowledge. And then from there onwards, it kept coming to every king, Rajarishi. So Imam Rajarishi Vidu. But then what happened? Sakale neha mata yoga nashta parantapa. As time went by, yoga nashta parantapa. Nashta means it was destroyed. So this science of yoga, how to connect with Krishna, how to serve the Supreme Lord, yoga nashta parantapa. Parantapa is Arjun, another name for him. So Krishna says, Arjun, but in due course of time, this knowledge was lost. And therefore, I have now come to give you this knowledge and re-establish this chain of disciplic succession, so that this knowledge may be passed down through disciplic succession, and people can therefore benefit from it. So two key points come out of here. One, that this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is not 5,000 years old. When Krishna spoke to Arjun on the battlefield, Krishna is saying, I actually gave this knowledge to Vivaswan at the beginning of this creation. So it's been coming down, handed down through disciplic succession through the ages. However, second point, the knowledge got lost, and therefore now I have come to revive it, and I'm speaking it to you. So why did Krishna speak it to Arjun? Why did Krishna choose Arjun? What was the qualification of Arjun that Krishna chose him to speak this knowledge? And that is in text 3. Will someone like to read the translation for text 3, please?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I will read.
Okay, Prabhu, go ahead.
Translation by His Divine Grace of Vachana Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So this is the key point there, that Arjun, I'm giving you this knowledge because you can understand it. This is mysterious. This is mysterious, but you can understand it. Why can you understand it, Arjun? Why did Krishna think that Arjun could understand it? Anybody?
Because he is devotee.
He's devotee. He's a devotee. His mind is that of a devotee. So what is the difference between the mind of a devotee and a non-devotee?
Devotee is always favorable, obedient, and non-devotee is ignorant, not favorable, maybe. Yeah.
But somebody might come and raise this question that, okay, this is very deep science. This is very important subject matter. Why did Krishna not choose the most intelligent person on the planet? Why did he not choose like who was the equivalent of Einstein, let's say, at that time, the smartest person?
Well, intelligent people cannot serve Krishna. I think their mind is fooling them. The service attitude of the Lord is very important. And the intelligence can fool you always, you know. I mean, it is not in the right.
Exactly. Very
Yeah.
nice. And what did we see? What did we learn from chapter 3 that helps us understand that a person may be so-called materially very intelligent, but what are they missing? What is their disqualification that they won't be able to understand this science of
Devotion.
Was that Prabhu? Go ahead.
Division. Devotion.
Yeah, excellent. The person lacks devotion. So when a person lacks devotion, what happens to their intelligence?
Covered by lust.
Covered by lust. Exactly. Exactly.
Prabhuji is 3.39 or 37 Prabhuji. Avritam jnanam etena jnani no nitya vairana kama rupena kaunteya duspurena lena cha Prabhuji.
Ah, very nice. Okay, why don't you explain that also to us?
So the wise living entity, the translation is the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by the eternal enemy of lust in the form of lust, which is never satisfied but burns like fire.
It's never satisfied, but burns like fire. So, in other words, a person may be very intelligent materially, but what is he using his intelligence for? To satisfy only the senses. Like let's take an example, right? We are all using technology right now. So many of us are on iPhones or on the computer. The person who has developed the iPhone obviously has got a lot of material intelligence. But if that intelligence is used only to, let's say, just make money with this invention, then the purpose of life is not solved, or the goal of life is not attained. But if the person uses this fantastic invention in the service of Krishna, like if all the devotees sitting here, you're using your iPhone to discuss about Shastra, to discuss about the Supreme Lord, to glorify the Supreme Lord, then you're making very good use of this technology. Of course, you can still use it to make your phone calls and so on and so forth, but you're also using it in direct service to the Supreme Lord. So that is the difference between a devotee's mindset and a non-devotee's mindset. The non-devotee always focuses on how to use the resources of nature for their own sense gratification. Oh, I'll invent an iPhone, I can sell so many pieces and make so much money, blah, blah, blah. It's all about enjoying the senses and the resources for their own sense gratification. Whereas the devotee says, okay, this is a great tool. This will make it efficient for me to connect with devotees sitting in Philadelphia and Atlanta and so on and so forth. And we can have very nice discussions on the Shastra through this technology. We are all sitting in our remote locations, but we are connected through these devices. So that is basically the difference. So Krishna says, that's why, Arjun, I chose you, because you will understand it. Now, let's discuss what is one more aspect of why a devotee can understand this, why a devotee can understand this and a non-devotee cannot. however smart the non-devotee might be.
Well, his devotee's mind is full, his consciousness is turned toward Krishna, love for Krishna, and he purifies himself or herself with the chanting and regulative principles. So the consciousness is exactly, I mean, closer to Krishna probably.
Sure,
Mhm.
sure. Consciousness is closer to Krishna.
Mhm.
What mental attitude on our part has brought our consciousness closer to Krishna?
Service.
We have,
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead, Mataji.
It's okay. Service attitude. Everything belongs to Krishna. He's the controller and he's the enjoyer. So whatever we do, it is all for Krishna's sake, not for our own benefit.
See, that is you're right on. That is the key point. The service attitude, and that service attitude stems from what state of mind?
One has to be very humble and surrendered to the Lord.
Surrender.
Okay, so in second chapter, Arjuna says, right? Chishyaste ham shadi mam pam prapam. Yeah, so he surrendered to Krishna. So then he is the right candidate to receive that knowledge.
Exactly. So why is surrender necessary to receive this knowledge? See, we are just going one layer by layer by layer by layer into the depth of what it takes to understand this. So you said surrender. Excellent.
Yeah. By surrendering, our energy is focused on Krishna. I mean, it's like a vice versa. You believe in Krishna, he is the total controller. You serve him, nobody else. Like, you know, he's the only God that you believe in. So if you are surrendering to somebody, you give your full attention and love for that person, right?
Right.
So the Krishna is the most beloved, and you focus, when you are surrendering, you total commitment is toward that cause. The purpose is for Krishna. Our life purpose is for Krishna.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And so what do we admit about ourselves when we agree to surrender to Krishna? There's something that we admit about ourselves.
I belong to Krishna, I guess. That's it.
Yes, yes.
We are his children. We are part and parcel of him.
Right, right. And so I may say that I am part and parcel of him, but I am Einstein, right? I am the world's smartest man.
Well, the smartness came from Krishna, right? The intelligence, all the good qualities that we possess, all came from Krishna, right?
Correct. Exactly.
So we don't serve independently. When we start thinking independently, that's where we fail. That's where we have confusion, and we, take, missteps or wrong conclusions or wrong things going on in our life. When we think we are better or we can do better than anybody, our intelligence can fool us sometimes. So that's what's happening.
Right, right. And that is the influence of lust, as we read in the 3rd chapter.
Yeah.
So when a person surrenders, the person accepts or admits that I am actually incapable of understanding everything there is to understand about the Supreme Lord, about the universe, about myself, about nature. You can call it whatever you want. But the person admits that I don't have the capacity to fully comprehend everything. And because I don't have the capacity to fully comprehend everything, I must submit to authority. And the authority, the highest authority, is the Supreme Lord himself. And the Supreme Lord's authority is revealed to us and is presented to us. It's explained to us, and it becomes accessible to us in the form of Shastra. So just think about this. I'll say this again. The Supreme Lord's authority is revealed to us it becomes accessible to us in the form of the scripture. So the really intelligent person understands that, you know what, I have my limitations. I may be Einstein, I may have invented this, I may have discovered that, but even Einstein said that the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. So that is what leads a person to surrender. And as Mataji, like you said, there is belief in the authority, in belief in God. And then there is the acceptance of our limitation. And so we say, okay, I cannot understand Krishna, God, and his creation just through study. I can spend years and years and years studying whatever books there are, and yet I will not fully understand it. That is how complicated, how deep, and how vast the knowledge of the Supreme Lord is. And therefore the person surrenders. And a person who surrenders then follows the process recommended by authorities. And when the person follows that process, what does Krishna do? How does he reciprocate?
He gives more intelligence to know about him, and I guess if you move one step, Krishna comes towards you 6 steps or 10 steps.
Right.
So he is favorable to you. He reveals that knowledge what you are lacking.
Exactly. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajadam priti purvakam dadami
Yogam tam yena mam apyantite.
yena mam upyantite, by which they can come to me. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. So I give them the knowledge by which they can come to me. Nowhere does Krishna say, you perform so many austerities, do this, and automatically you will then become qualified to understand everything. Because he knows what the limitations are of human being, and therefore he says, Danami buddhi yogantam, by which I give them knowledge, yena mamopi antite, by which they can come to me. So he wants us to come to him. He knows we can't fully comprehend him. Yet he is saying, I am available to help you. As long as you surrender to me, as long as you believe in me. If you believe in authority, and if you surrender to the instructions of authority, then the reciprocation begins. And as part of that reciprocation, Krishna promises that then I will give you the knowledge by which you can come to me. So there is knowledge that we can acquire, and then there is knowledge that can be revealed. What did we learn about knowledge that can be acquired in the previous chapter? Knowledge can be acquired how? Through our senses, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And are the senses pure or impure?
Impure.
Impure.
Yes. Senses are covered by
Lust.
lust.
Maya, or I don't know, illusion.
Yeah. Maya, illusion, lust. You know, senses are covered by lust. And that was Krishna's whole point in the last verse of chapter 3. That Arjun, your intelligence is covered by lust. And you have to use spiritual intelligence. Steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this enemy known as lust. And this is a very, very key point. He says by spiritual strength. Jai Sharma Kamamudurasanam Evam Buddhe Param Buddhava. So by spiritual strength, you conquer this knowledge, you conquer this enemy. So there is a very beautiful connection that arises from this point of spiritual strength. First thing, spiritual strength allows us to overcome this enemy called lust. And thereby we can understand Krishna and we can serve Krishna. But where will the spiritual strength come from?
Prabhuji, Prabhuji, can I say something? Good.
Yes, go ahead, Shri Prabhu.
You said how to conquer lust, right, Prabhuji? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Shiksha, I think Shikshashtikam said, Chaita Darpanam Arjunam Baba Mahada Vargin Darpapanam.
Very good. Yes.
Mm.
Excellent. Yeah. So Mahaprabhu said, Cheto Dharman Marjanam, cleanse your intelligence. How? Through Sankirtan, right? Right. Excellent. So Mahaprabhu is called Namo Mahavandanyaya, most merciful in incarnation. And why is he called most merciful? Because he's not asking for anything. He's just saying, you just chant this holy name and I'll give you love of Krishna. Right? So that's why he's called most merciful. He's really kind. So then that spiritual strength, where is that coming from? Where will that come from? You see, one thing that is required is surrender. Who do we surrender to? We surrender to Krishna. But how do we demonstrate our surrender to Krishna in this lifetime? Do we have to enroll in college or do we have to do something?
No.
He's surrendering to his devotees.
Surrender to his devotees.
Following the rules.
Yeah, but we surrender to his devotees. We surrender to, and so we take shelter of the
pure Vaishnavas.
The spiritual master, right?
Yeah.
So who does the spiritual master represent?
I guess he is representative of Krishna.
Correct. And then who is the original spiritual master?
Balram.
Balram.
Balaram. Prabhuji, Sadhu Shastra, Sadhu and Guru Sadhu Shastra, Prabhuji.
Excellent. Yes. Guru Sadhu Shastra. Those are the three sources for our knowledge. And so when
it is said that Guru Rupe Krishna Anna Sastra Parmana. Guru Rupe Krishna Anna Sastra Parmana. Guru Kripa Karana Bhakta Gana, something like that.
Right. So the idea there is that we surrender to Krishna by accepting higher authority, which is, we say, okay, we surrender to the spiritual master. And through spiritual master, we receive the mercy of Krishna. But this all goes up to, so the original spiritual master is who again? Mukta Sangha Prabhu, you just said that, I think.
Balram.
Lord Balram. Lord Balram. So think about it. Lord Balram's name analyzed as having two parts, Bala and Ram. Bala and Ram. Rama is short for Ramana. So Bala means
strength.
And what kind of strength are we referring to?
Spiritual strength.
So that's why in the translation of this verse 43, Krishna says, by spiritual strength, you can conquer this enemy known as lust. So that's why Lord Balram, the source of spiritual strength, when we surrender to the Guru, Lord Balram gives us the spiritual strength by which we can overcome this enemy known as lust. And when we overcome that enemy known as lust, then we will experience the second half of Lord Balram's name, which is Ramana. Ramana means spiritual bliss or spiritual happiness, or eternal bliss or eternal happiness. So that's why when we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So we are appealing to Ram. We are asking Krishna for devotional service. We're saying, oh Hare, spiritual energy of the Supreme Lord Radharani. Oh Krishna, you're the all attractive, but actually right now I don't find you the all attractive. My attraction is towards material objects, but Krishna is the all attractive. And so when we chant the Maha Mantra, we say, oh Krishna, the all attractive, please engage me in your devotional service, and that will help us to experience Ramana, spiritual bliss. So that's why in text 43, Krishna says, by spiritual intelligence and by spiritual strength, you can conquer this enemy. So that's why the surrender is very important. And so Krishna builds upon what he said in text 43 over here by saying that, look, I gave this knowledge through disciplic succession. So the point he's making is getting into the disciplic succession is very important if we are serious about acquiring this knowledge, because it will be revealed to us. There is so much that we can learn through our senses, but as we just discussed in chapter 3, our senses are limited. Our senses have limited capacity. They can only do so much. Our eyes can only see maybe 2 miles away, 5 miles away, 10 miles away at most. We cannot see what's going on the sun planet. We can't even look at the sun with our eyes. When you look at the sun for 2 seconds and you get blinded. So our senses are limited. Our senses help us acquire knowledge. We read with our eyes, we hear with our ears, we understand with our intelligence and mind, but there's only this much that we can do with them. So the other part of knowledge has to be revealed to us. And that revealed knowledge comes by pleasing the Supreme Lord. When the Lord is pleased, he reveals that knowledge to us, and he is pleased when we surrender. And so this sweet connection that I was referring to earlier is this particular point, that the knowledge is revealed to us by the mercy of the Guru. And that knowledge is basically spiritual intelligence, spiritual knowledge, spiritual strength. That spiritual knowledge leads to spiritual strength. That's why it's connected to Lord Balaram or to Nityananda Prabhu, original spiritual masters. And through them, the Dhami Buddhi Yogam Tam, Krishna gives the knowledge and the intelligence through Lord Balaram, so that we can, with that spiritual strength, defeat the pressure of lust that is always distracting our mind and polluting our mind. And when that happens, when we overcome this enemy known as lust, then we start experiencing spiritual bliss, spiritual happiness, or the Ramana.
Prabhu, can I interrupt something, please?
Certainly, Mataji, go ahead.
Prabhu, was Einstein, I thought he believed in God, though. Wasn't he a spiritual person or something?
Yeah. Definitely.
And one more scientist also, he believed. I think Newton also believed in God, wasn't he?
Every major scientist has conceded that the more they learn, the more they realize they don't know. So anyway, I'll stop here, Prabhuji, Mataji. Please go ahead with questions, comments, or doubts, whatever.
Well, controlling the mind is the biggest problem, I think, especially nowadays. It's not easy, especially in the winter holidays. So many outside influences can affect us, affect our mood. So you have to bring it back. I'm talking about myself, lose enthusiasm sometimes because of so many things outside. That's what the weather and other things can influence you to a great extent. We may be lacking sometimes the purpose or the value or something goes down in us. So we have to bring it back again, we have to motivate ourselves to bring back. That's what I said. Sometimes the senses, sometimes the Maya or something takes over, pulls you in a different directions of worrying about certain things that you don't need to.
Yes, that is a very good example of how Maya acts upon us, how the forces of nature, how the 3 modes of material nature are acting upon us.
Yeah.
So through our senses, they cloud our intelligence.
Yeah.
We start thinking of things that maybe we should not be,
Mm-hmm. We know, I mean, deliberately we think we shouldn't be thinking Krishna is there to protect you. And that's what I'm saying. The mind is really, it's very difficult to control. We worry about the snow and other things. I'm talking about this Philadelphia region, what is going to happen tomorrow. We can take care of it, with proper things and all, material things or salt or something, we can take care of the situation. But still, mind always dwells on something that you don't have to, silly things that we worry about instead of focusing on something. Whatever it is going to happen, it happens. But I'm sure Krishna will not make you suffer, but still it is difficult. The mind is very difficult to control.
Yes, that is true, Madhavi. That is very true.
That's my understanding, but still.
That is entirely true, Madhavi. That's why the association of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra helps us stay on track. Thank you, Madhavi.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Other questions or thoughts, comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, you explained about how even though one may be very intelligent, they may not be able to accept the Supreme Lord and like that. So it just reminded me about the past of Shukracharya and Bali Maharaj. That Shukracharya, even though he was very intelligent and had so many mystical powers and all that, but still Bali Maharaj, he was the grandson of Prahlad, and then naturally he had devotion for the Lord, and that way the Lord bestowed his mercy on him.
And thank you so much for sharing that, Narasimha Prabhu. That's a fantastic example from the Bhagavatam about strong intelligence, but not being rooted in devotion.
Right.
And that was indeed the case. And later on, after Bali Maharaj surrendered to Vamandev, and Vamandev blessed him, and the entire episode was over, then Shukracharya learned and accepted that Bali Maharaj's intelligence was actually higher because he had devotion in him.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Prabhu. That was that's a great example.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, you explained about the meaning of Balaram, like Bala and then Ram. Can you please repeat that one more time? I missed some of that.
Sure. So Bala refers to spiritual strength. So when we get spiritual strength, that allows us to purify our senses. It is through spiritual strength that, so the translation of text 43 says that, right? And by deliberate spiritual intelligence, and thus by spiritual strength, conquer this enemy known as lust. So the spiritual strength comes from Lord Balaram. And when we, with the spiritual strength, when we purify our senses, then we actually start experiencing the bliss and the happiness associated with devotional service. Up until that point, since the mind is contaminated, it cannot fully experience devotional service or the bliss of devotional service. But when the mind is purified, then it can experience the bliss of devotional service. And that is Ramana. Ramana means spiritual bliss or spiritual happiness. And it's eternal in nature. It's eternal bliss, eternal happiness. And so that is encapsulated in the word Ram. So Ram, basically, Ramante Yoginam Ante, Ramante Yoginam Ante, Satchidanand Atmani iti Ramapate Nasau Param Brahma Abhidiyate. I was trying to remember this verse, it's been a long time. Ramante Yoginam Ante. So Ramana is the spiritual happiness that we can experience through the mercy of Lord Balaram when he blesses us with spiritual intelligence or bala. So that is those are the two parts of bala, or two parts of Balram, Bala and Ramana.
Got it. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Let me give you the reference for this verse. Mante Yogina Mante. This is from Padma Puran. And so the translation of that is the supreme absolute truth is called Rama, because the transcendentalists take pleasure in the unlimited true pleasure of spiritual existence. So Ramana refers to spiritual bliss or eternal bliss and eternal happiness. Does that answer your question, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. And where is it quoted, Prabhuji? Is it in the Gita somewhere?
This is quoted basically in CC Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Madhya Leela. Madhya Leela 929. But if you look up Prabhupada verses, Ramante Yoginam Anante.
Got it, Prabhuji. I was just trying to search. Thank you.
Ramante Yoginam Anante Satchit Ananda Atmani. So this is where this verse says that the yogis refer to the Supreme Lord as Rama also, because he is the source of Ramana, spiritual bliss. So that's why when we chant Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, people ask, why do you chant Krishna and Ram's names? Because this is why. Because Hare refers to Krishna's spiritual energy, and that spiritual energy allows us to enjoy Ramana, spiritual bliss, by finding, by understanding the true meaning of Krishna, which is all attractive. Krishna means all attractive. So we can only find Krishna all attractive if our mind is pure. Otherwise, we'll find all material things attractive, money and this and that. But we find Krishna to be all attractive when our mind is cleansed. And when we find him all attractive, our focus is only on him. That is the only thing that attracts us. And then we experience Ramana, or spiritual bliss, spiritual happiness. So that's why Krishna and Rama and Hare, these are the three words only in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The entire sum of our philosophy, the entire sum of Vedic philosophy is encapsulated in these three words of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Yes, Prabhuji. Really wonderful how much depth is there in the mantra, and how that's how we are all feeling happiness in the process. And yeah, that's all.
You know, it is the Mahamantra is actually amazing. We can do so many discussions on it. At the simplest level, it's simply, as Prabhupada says, it's like a child's cry to Mother Hare, that please engage me in the devotional service of the Lord.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, and we were talking about surrender.
Yes, Prabhuji.
There are several examples for the surrender. One I wanted to discuss about in the Bhagavatam, that is Gajendra Moksha. So one of the lecture I was hearing in that, I know that the Acharya was saying that Lord is so merciful that he delivers the one who is dasanudas, kind of, like those who are surrendered to the devotee of my devotee. So So there, if we see that the crocodile who holded the the leg of that Gajendra, the elephant. So who was first got delivered? So first got delivered that crocodile. So Lord first given mercy to, even though he was in the different mood, he was not in the serving mood, but he was holding the leg of the devotee. So here for us to learn the lesson, not directly to correlate in that bhav. So to learn the lesson, we have to do the sadhu sangha, and we have to approach our senior devotees and surrender to the devotee, so that devotee will guide us to make the guru and to give that whatever he knows, and then we can approach to the guru, and then guru can guide to the Krishna.
Right.
So that's the bhav. So first that crocodile got delivered, then Gajendra got delivered. Means Gajendra went to the Vaikuntha with Lord. So yeah, so surrender is the essence of that, and to develop the surrender, we have to first trust. We have to Adav Shraddha. So first we have to show our interest, that the Komal Shraddha we say. So then therefrom everything will start. So first we have to trust. Otherwise, if we think how come Krishna told to the, Arjuna asked the question, Arjuna means Krishna, you are in my age. How sun god Vivaswan told this,
how did you tell him?
How you told to the sun god Vivaswan, who is far, far superior than you. So yeah, that such kind of doubts and question comes to us. Yeah. So whatever written in the Shastra, we have to, we can clarify the questions, whatever we have submissively, but we have to first trust that, yeah, whatever written, that is absolutely correct. Just since so since we are not eligible and qualified to understand, so we have to inquire our superiors and those who understand, who can reveal that knowledge to us.
Right. That's a very good point about surrender. That's the crux of the whole thing. I mean, just surrendering and accepting knowledge from the higher authorities, because our intelligence can only take us so far.
Right.
Prabhu, can I share something, Prabhu?
Yes, Madhuri.
I wanted to read always Narayaniam, because I visited Guru Gair temple, Krishna is there.
Right.
And I happened to read it for a couple of days. Lot of, I think this technology is very helpful now, because the books, sometimes it's very difficult to go through the books because of the tiny prints. There's he was the Bhagavatar who was mentioning, this was done by Narayana Bhattar, I think. He was telling everybody always chants Narayana, Narayana. Once the curtain opens, when the little Krishna shows up, they all say Krishna, Unni Krishna, Unni Krishna. Before that, everybody is chanting Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. That was, I never heard that. That was a little revelation for me, where the Krishna, and he was also explaining Gajendra Moksham, other things he was correlating as bringing stories about, Dhruva and everything that came from it, because he was telling actually the Krishna and how Krishna came about there. And it was very nice, lecture. It's like every tape was like 1 hour lecture. Yeah, it was really nice. He did the Sanskrit verses. I speak Tamil, so he said something in Tamil, Sanskrit, English. They speak 3-4 different languages, so they can correlate and bring up things, and sometimes Hindi also. So it was very nice, experience. I have been wanting to read it. I have only books, but the book is very small print, and sometimes it's difficult for me to read them. I would rather listen This way, you close your eyes and listen and grasp the ideas. It's a good experience, I think. It talks about Krishna.
It's in Tamil, Mataji?
No, I think it they have English, they have Sanskrit, but the Bhagavatar who was giving, he's a Vaishnava. So he gave the lecture in Tamil. I do listen to a lot of Tamil people. A lot of really, really outstanding scholars are there to give in Sanskrit. They sing also in between Carnatic music. In between, you are supposed to sing the song and they bring out the essence of the thing. I love music, Carnatic music. So they sing Carnatic music in between. Tyagaraja Bhagavatar, I don't know whether you heard of him. I love his kritis. And he talked about Tyagaraja Prabhu.
So we can ask Tyagaraja, do you know about this?
Who?
Not
Everybody
much.
knows about Narayaniyam.
Yeah, I've heard about it, but not much knowledge about it.
Some of the Tamil lectures are, they see a lot of ladies also do the Bhagavatam lectures.
Okay.
They are very well versed, they are very intelligent people. They are from South. They sing beautifully also, Tyagaraja Kritis. They can correlate, they can bring ideas to current topic. They know Sanskrit very well. They can speak English really fluently, and also they can sing beautifully,
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah, I do listen to their lectures because I do love music. So if they can combine with music, correlate or bring ideas from other things, it really enhances the topic. And you remember pretty good.
Right.
Yeah, I think Narayaniyam, everybody, and I wanted to read, even in our Sri Vaishnava tradition, there are Deshika, Vedanta Deshika. I haven't read it yet. They always refer to that. I'm hoping to read that too, one day, if I can. This is what I wanted to share with you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji, for sharing that. That sounds really nice.
Thank you, Mataji. Shiva Prabhu has raised his hand.
Sorry.
Shiva
Prabhuji, I just wanted to share that you asked that question that why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that merciful? I just wanted to like answer that question. Before my mom said you can answer it in the last. So why is Gauranga merciful? Because he's thinking of Radharani and he's dancing and he's in the ecstasy of Radharani.
Whoa, very nice.
Wonderful. Haribol.
Beautiful.
Very nice explanation. Thank you so much for doing that. Excellent job. Great.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, we need all the young kids to go ahead. You are of the
Excellent.
third generation, the second generation. Take this Hare Krishna movement further.
That's very nice.
Yes.
Okay, Mataji.
I think we are good. Very
Thank you.
So then,
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
wonderful discussion, Prabhu, today. Very practical. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all the
Thank you, Prabhuji.
devotees.
Thank you.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Vanchakal.
Hare Krishna.
Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Shila Prabhupada.
Ki jai.
Ki jai.
Thank you.
Ajit Krishna Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, for wonderful. So these are really nectarian, wonderful.
Yeah, be safe tomorrow. It's already snowing outside.
Hare Krishna.